turn your clients into raving fans. I have Anand here with me from Pulse360, and we're going to walk through how to turn your clients into raving fans. And I know I've seen, endless books written about this whole concept about raving fans, where you want to build almost a tribe that's going to go out there and hit the field and, rave about you as well. So we're really excited to hear more about this. Like I said, I have Anand here with me. He's the CEO and founder of Pulse360. My name is Nora Gallegos, and I'm the financial planning content thought leader with Precisive P. And I'll go ahead and hand it over to Anand, and he'll maybe do like a brief introduction, and then feel free to, share your screen as well, and we'll run through all of the features of the integration as well as Pulse 360.
Thank you, Nora, and thanks everybody for taking the time. Before I get started, I wanted to kind of just give you a little bit of a background on myself as well as this concept around raving fans. As Nora mentioned, there's several books written about these things, and I have gotten ideas from that to actually build what we have done with Pulse 360. From a background perspective, I myself was in the advisor world for about 2 decades. I've done everything from serve coffee to clients to compliance. And this is the reason why we started Pulse 360, because delivering that next level client experience takes a lot of work, right? There needs to be systems and organization and team members and stuff like that. So this is where we kind of started and said, how do we enable advisors to deliver on this in a more easier, systematic way, right? First off, the question is, right, why bother? Why do you want to put in an extra effort around this whole concept and creating raving fans, right? Now, it may seem kind of like, of course, you want to get referrals out of that, but after some time, you start to realize that it's a lot of work, right? And so let me kind of backtrack a little bit and give you some statistics around what you may or may not be realizing you're spending on marketing efforts, right? From Kitsis research, he's estimating that you're spending approximately $3,000 for every prospect that walks through the door, right? This is not a referral, but just like a cold prospect that's went on your site and whatnot. And this is mainly because, you're doing so many different things. You may not even realize, but there's a cost associated for all of that. You may be doing ads or podcasts, have lead magnets on your site, newsletters you're sending to them, right? And so this is your typical, process. Or you may be doing old school, right? You may be doing seminars or things of that sort. They all add up, and this is where it ends up at. On average, it's going to cost you $3,000 for somebody to walk through the door, right? Then,
Do you believe that? $3,000 now. I'm sure that's changed exponentially over
yeah,
time.
right, right. And that 3,000, by the way, you don't even know if they're going to convert, right? There's a lower propensity for that conversion to happen from a prospect to a client versus a referral, right? If they do end up becoming clients of you, then your estimated revenue is around $3,000, per client. Why do I bring these two numbers together? Well, if you tie them together, if you focus on creating raving fans, one, it's almost a $6,000 impact on your practice. You're spending $3,000 plus on marketing. Well, with a referral, that's a lot lower naturally, right? Because it's asking a client, and the client will refer to you. And of course, if the client is bringing you revenue of an average of $3,000, you're always sort of fearing that, what if the clients leave? Well, if you turn your practice around and focus on delivering this raving service and creating them into our raving fans, you're helping protect that element as well. So that's why I say it's a huge impact, right? It's almost $6,000 if you decide to take this on. Now, from a raving fan's perspective, right? Why does that work? Why do they refer more? It's mainly because we value the opinions of other people we know, right? If you look at reviews on Amazon and others, we're always, before we're buying, we're looking at that because we are human beings. We tend to want to listen to what others are doing. It's the herd mentality, right? It's a safety by numbers. Okay, this is what everybody is doing. So it's inbuilt in us to kind of share that experience that we've had, that positive experience we've had, or negative, right? Negative flies even faster. And so it's not something odd for a client to be expecting to come from you, right? It is just natural human instincts we have. So those, once they become raving fans, they're going to turn around and refer and refer and refer to you, right? They're going to become your advocates out on the field without you having to spend the marketing dollars that you would have otherwise. So now the concept is, right, how do you execute this? Now, there are a set of advisors that feel answering the phone is enough, like 3 rings, pick up, right? Or another version of this, hey, if they email us, we'll email right back. I argue that's the basic table stakes. Like, that's what you should already be doing. That's nothing to write home about, right? What you need to do is you need to figure out, how do you wow your clients? And for that, what you need is a defined and a dependable system. Once you have this kind of dialed in, it runs like a clockwork, like a machine, right? I know you're thinking, oh God, another system to implement and whatnot. Yes, it doesn't actually have to take that much time of yours to set that up. And all of it really comes down to a fundamental piece of this equation is sharing with the clients, like, hey, I'm listening to you, right? Just ask yourself, how do you feel when you know someone has listened to you, right? Rather than just kind of hearing you out, but actually has listened and can tell you what you have said back, right? That's the key part about showing the client that you've been there. That's how you step up over to the next level, right? And you just have to have a pulse, right? Pun intended. Our company is called Pulse360. This is why we named it. This is exactly why we named it. And so, what do I mean by the system, right? How do you go about building that? Let me share some ideas. You don't necessarily have to have our software for this. You could just do this on your own. Our software makes it a lot more easier, but let's walk through some examples so you can take that concrete back with you and think about it, right? And see if you want to implement. Let's start off with some basic item levels, right? We already covered the phone and the email, which, are table stakes. But then I want to go one level higher and say, when you have a meeting with a client, it's in a week or 2 weeks or even a prospect, how are you tracking? This is what we said we're going to look at next meeting, right? You need to have a defined way of tracking this. So it could be just put in your CRM as a task or whatever, but you want to make sure all of your next meeting items, not just from this meeting, but maybe past 3-4 meetings that you have compiled, when you're having this future meeting, you bring it up and say, hey, remember we had discussed we're going to look at an island. That shows to the client that, okay, you are a professional. You're not dropping the ball on anything, right? That, again, ties into the whole idea of they're going to be getting, looking at you from a perspective of like, okay, my advisor is on top of this thing. It's very simple, right? And that's why I said it doesn't need to take too much time. It just needs to a thought through process. The other idea is, once you have the next meeting, it's like, all right, how do you capture and track nuances about a client, right? In this example, when I'm showing you, right, gee, this client wants to go to Alaska, I want to take the kids, right? Now, you may remember that for your top 20% of your clients, but how do you make it so that you can remember that for 100% of your clients? This is where you need to start thinking and implementing something. It could just be, you put it in a CRM somewhere and you review that beforehand, right? Or you can utilize a software like ours, but you need to have a way of tracking different nuances. The next nuance here under financial planning I've put in has no mortgage. Let me tell you a story on why I put that there. When I was in the field, I had known about my clients not having, any mortgages. And I sent out emails, and this happened to like 2 or 3 of our favorite clients. And they took that offensively because they replied back and said, "You don't know? We have no mortgage. Why are you asking for a mortgage statement?"
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Ouch, right? That was not cool. And that's just because we knew, but it wasn't tied together in our proper review process to look at all of those things, right? Again, going back to building out some sort of a mechanism where you can track these things so that you don't make the mistake that I have made personally. And I put this here as a reminder just because I'm a glutton for punishment. I still remember those conversations with those clients and having to apologize and said, our bad on that, right? Once you kind of have the next meeting and these nuances, really what you should be doing is sending an agenda ahead of time to the client. Now, I know many of you may prepare like a formal agenda for the actual meeting, but if you want to create that raving fans, you need to send that ahead of time to them. It does few things for you. One, it tells the client what you're going to talk about, shows them that you are ready, right? It gives them an opportunity to add something to the plate. Maybe they've changed jobs or things of that sort, so that at least you then get, prepared better. But there's a third thing that happens, which clients have come and told me personally when we started implementing agendas. It was simple agendas. They said, "We are no longer as afraid to come and see you." Because before, they had no idea what we're going to talk about. Maybe we're going to give them bad news, right? We deal with money, we deal with stock market. And so you have to look at it from a client's perspective sometimes and say, what are they feeling coming into the meeting? I had no idea until I was told that, like, hey, thanks for the agenda. It helps us, kind of be more relieved, right?
Yeah, I like that. And plus, I feel like sometimes in a meeting, some people are really conscious or aware of the speed of the meeting. And sometimes if you're, asking a client to pull up something in the moment, it kind of diverts the meeting to something else and puts everything else on pause. And now everyone's sitting there waiting for credentials to be entered and this and that. So I think that could help a lot with that feeling of the meeting as well, of like,
Yeah,
okay, we didn't have to waste time talking about something for 10 minutes that didn't matter.
right. Yeah, and see, these are not earth-shattering things for you as an advisor to do, right? You just have to have some sort of a system to get this done. And
Mm.
this starts your journey towards making them into raving fans. Now, let's step up and go a next level higher. During a meeting, a client may tell you, hey, in 6 months, I'm going to need to, get some cash out because I need an HVAC repair or something like that. Well, if you utilize that moment of information and put that in a system once again to track it, when a client calls you, you or your team can pull up what are the cash needs, what they had said. And before even they finish the sentence, you're like, yeah, it was 10,000 approximately for HVAC repair, right? Is that why you're calling? That shows the client that like they are the only clients you have, because how else are you going to be able to remember this, right? Um, in fact, you could be proactive. One of the things what we enable you to do is create a task back in the CRM. You could set up a task a month out from whenever they had said, like, let's say the summer or whatnot. You could have a task come up in May that now makes you more proactive and reach out to them saying, hey, by the way, we're just planning. We've talked about, in January that you may have an HVAC repair. Is that still happening, not happening? That shows to the client that, okay, my advisor is looking after me and my interest, right? Again, this is super simple things that once you kind of get organized, you can actually implement. And it delivers huge impact in the client's perception of you as their advisor, right? The other element that we level up and we say, all right, during your meetings, clients may be sharing with you what their beliefs are, what their vision, what their desires are. I know we always deal with numbers, but if they're telling you all of this information, store it in a way that you can bring that up. In fact, like this deliverable right here, you could have a deliverable prepared in seconds and share to the client, hey, by the way, I know we're helping you with other things, but this is what you've told us, right? You've said Apple's your favorite, right? So we're going to make sure we don't sell that. Or you prefer, for example, or your value is spending time with your family versus any material purchases. Just confirm. Again, putting something like this as a document in front of a client, the impact will be just like, wow, that you have covered across all of our different meetings, all these little details that matters to us as human beings, right? So that's what takes you into that journey, into elevating you to be different than other advisors and different than a normal standard service. You're just going on an exceptional level here, right? The other part is you can also, from a perspective of why they've hired you, you can share with them where you're at, what you have covered with them as far as, hey, we're helping you buy a car or trip or what have you. What I don't mean is showing them investment return numbers, right? That's just part of your business anyways, but doesn't really tie into like the emotional element. What you can do is you can share with them, by the way, hey, at the beginning of the year, in this case, for example, Happy New Year. I just want to make sure these are the goals we've talked about. We're going to help you with. Still makes sense or not? And this doesn't take that long to do if you have a system to put together. And you can do this across 100% of your client versus your favorite 20% of the clients. I know we tend to get into that habit of, just because we don't have time, we'll pick our 20% of our clients as being our favorite and the rest just kind of get a blah service. You don't need to be that. Right? You can elevate yourself to deliver a much higher level of client service. The other area you can share with them, if you kind of think through, is, hey, I want to share with you where we're at with things. Here, what I'm showing you right now is what recommendations you've made, work that's ongoing, what you're still waiting for from the client. All of this can be put together relatively fast and easy if you sit down at the beginning and think through what you want to be able to do, right? This may be one of those things that, all right, I'm going to keep track of these things and create a summary afterwards to send to them as a status summary, so they know where things are at.
Yeah, I
Ultimately,
love that because I know personally I'm like a sequential person. So I really like, the bullets, the check boxes, and not only are you having to track all this verbal things that are said or discussed during a meeting, but you have to pay attention to the nonverbal things. Did they glance at each other when you went over something, or did one of them seem uncomfortable or unhappy? Those are things to track as well.
yeah. And so ultimately, you know, what you want to think of is, how can you have a pulse on everything that's important to the client, right? What is your system that you can track these small nuances, the nonverbal thing that Nora just mentioned, all the way to, in this case, she loves black coffee, for example. So if you have in-person meetings coming up, have that ready. We used to do that before COVID, of course, right? We'd have the beverages ready for the. Now, it may seem like trivial, but the impact was just huge for us from a practice. We had our practice was basically growing by referrals, and we had almost 2 referrals a week that was coming through, right? So that's
Wow,
almost a
awesome.
hundred. That's almost 100 clients. It took time, right, to get to that motion of, because we had to put all of these things together. But once it became a machine, and everybody knew where to put the information, how to make sure that before a client walks through the door, you're as ready and as possible on that. So with that, that's kind of the concludes this part of the presentation. I'd love to answer any questions if anybody has, or share some other additional thoughts if somebody else has.
Yeah, you definitely want to work on giving those warm and fuzzies inside. I know I worked with an office once that would put their name on a marquee as they arrived into the office, and
Yeah.
that gave those warm and fuzzies and created that moment. So that's really great. And I know, we talked about how important it is to understand how your clients are referring. Even when you're talking about ranking your clients, I've worked with offices that have referrals or introductions as part of their ranking. So maybe their first, if they're a triple A client, that first A could be for assets, that second A could be for, attitude, and then that third one can be for the referrals. How many introductions are they making? Because maybe they don't have a lot of assets with you too, but they're out there hitting the field, telling everyone about you and bringing you in a bunch of business. So making sure that you reward that client loyalty, or at least let them know that you're appreciative of those referrals, is really helpful as well.
Yeah, it's I think that's a whole different webinar we could do on just what you said, Nora, is how do you segment client base, right? I've done that enough times over my history. It is important for you to, as a office, to know where different clients are for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I have a good friend too that likes to just eliminate the word referral altogether and just use the word introduction,
Sure.
where it's like, hey, I'm looking for an introduction. If you have any family and friends, feel free to introduce me. And it's almost like a trigger where it's like, yeah, I'll introduce you to my brother, or I'll introduce you to my good friend. It's a thing to try out as well.
Yeah, and I know as advisors we're sometimes hesitant in asking clients for referrals or introductions. But I'll tell you, I think if you have delivered the level of service that I'm just showing you, it's just going to give you the extra boost and confidence knowing it's okay to ask. It's fine, right? They already love you because you have delivered on all of these things and continue to deliver on this. So this all ties back into how you're looking to grow your practice, right? If you're looking to spend more money on marketing, as far as ads or podcasting and all the other stuff, that's certainly one way. But we've seen, I think, I forget the number right now, but I think almost 35 or 39% of growth for advisors is through referrals. So it is a huge channel that you wanna look at how you can get better and better and get not just one client, maybe not just one referral, maybe two, three. So
Yes. And when you were mentioning how important it is to listen to your clients and make sure that they feel heard, that definitely goes beyond, maybe if you realize you're growing a female base, you're not just making everything pink and saying, well, I'm listening to them, they're making them pink. Like you said, sometimes their beliefs, their upbringing, their family is going to play a lot into how they feel about money. And is if you can tune into that, maybe they want to know how the clock works, not just what time it is. So maybe they don't just want that return number. They want to know, how it's working. Kind of understanding that will help as well.
yeah. So
Yeah, so did you want to jump into the system and show around, or?
sure, I can. Hang on one second, and I'll stop my share for a second here and share with you. So let's share again. And so you should be seeing our Pulse 360. I'm going to walk you through those examples that I just went through on how we have built our system around that, right? I'm going to pick up on a client here, Dana, for example. And what I'll do is I'll go through and search through all the notes I've entered into for Dana. So this could be part of your prep work right at the beginning, right? To say, all right, let's just look at the full history. So here in Pulse 360, every note that you enter, we break it apart into its component. So like this is under family note. This is second one is around financial planning, tax. Again, this goes to we want you to be organized, right? Just dumping notes in a CRM is not organization, right? It creates more havoc for you later, and it creates the inability for you to even execute anything that I've just talked about. So what we decided to say is let's just break apart all the different things you're talking about. Like this goes under financial planning. Now I can apply a tag like I have cash needs. That's what you saw on the screenshot before. Hey, we talked about you're going to need 10K and I'm going to apply cash needs. So before a meeting, you can just come over and say, or before, you know, let's say in the month of May, you want to reach out to them, you just say, hey, let's pull up cash needs. Or if they call on the phone, you can instantly just pull up the tag. Now, anybody on your team can just say, yeah, we talked about 10,000 for HVAC. Is that still accurate? Right? That's a whole different experience, right? And this is by breaking all of the notes apart. I mentioned around file prep, doing better file prep job, not what I did. Like I asked for a mortgage statement when there wasn't one. Now you can apply file prep to the different notes you enter, and this puts you mentally in a better position, better readiness state, right? About what's important to the client. Okay, they've got kids going to, they have an old 401k, right? When you read that, it puts you in a state like, perhaps we should ask for an updated statement so that when the meeting happens, you're not asking for it at that time, which then now pushes all the work in the back end. If you ask beforehand, you're better prepared overall. They love Western novels, right? Like I had the other example, the lady loved black coffee. So these are things that you can at least mentally kind of get ready, right? Then from Pulse, because we have a history of all the notes you enter, we give you the power of creating different deliverables. So I'm going to pull up the beliefs one. It's called client focus in our system. And now what it did is it took all the notes. I have 1,800 plus notes in here and compiled just what I wanted. This is because of we have a very powerful templating system behind the scenes that will say, all right, I need to show values here. I need to show values, beliefs, and desires. You can create this very, very easy. All you need to focus on is adding the notes,
Wow.
and now you can have this populated within seconds, as you saw, right? And if you wanted to, like this is all of time, right? If you wanted to, you could even filter this down and say, you know what, I just want to focus on last 12 months. And just by clicking on last 12 months date, now the document completely changed. So you can just email this to them like, hey, the last 12 months, this is what we talked about, right?
Oh,
So,
that's great.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's a great call out too, because life changes so fast. So they might see this and be like, "Oh man, we forgot to put that we want, season tickets to the Suns game or whatever," and that conversation can start.
Yeah, yeah. And for Pulse 360, what we have done, this is very, very dynamic as a note. So let me see if I can find. As I said, I'm filtering this by the different dates and stuff. But you can also, if this was turned on, you can also remove it from the document, but still have it part of yours. So you don't have to have everything show up. You could choose and uncheck things to prepare the document better, right? So.
Yeah, maybe they
Um,
say they're on a diet and you put that in there, but you're like, we don't need to put that on the front page news, right?
Yeah, yeah, and it's all built in with those safety checks so that you can make sure when you're adding notes if it's going to be client facing versus not, you just go from the get-go that way. So yeah, so that's a kind of an overall view of this idea of about creating raving fans, right? And how you can get better organized.
Perfect.
So,
And you guys are really well integrated as well. I know there's a Precise P integration, so that helps, bring everything together as well.
Yeah, let me actually share that with you. Hold on. I think that would be an important thing. Thank you for reminding me to share that. So give me 1 second. I'll go back. Um, this goes to delivering that better client experience. If you're thinking about a prospect, let's say, right, and you want to collect a set of data from them, what you could do is you could go into Pulse 360. I'm going to prepare a quick meeting agenda here that I can email the client, and I'll just type in, let's say, it's under financial planning, please fill out this data kit, let's just say. Because we integrate with Precise FP, you can just click this icon, pull up the name of the contact. So let's say it's this contact. We're going to automatically bring in the different templates you have built in Precise FP for you to pick from. So in this case, let's say it's Financial Fact Finder. You can change out these options as you see fit and create a link directly from Pulse. We're pinging right now Precise FP. Precise FP came back and said, hey, here's a link that you can now paste right here. You can hyperlink it, but I'm just going to add it as is right now. And now when you're sending an email to a prospect or a client, it's all kind of coming together in one email that goes to the client with all the links from Precise FP that you may want, right? So, yeah.
That's really great. I love that because, sometimes you need to refer to that link as well as an advisor, and now it's there physically in the email. So it
That's right.
makes it look like it's coming right from your desktop or your phone. You have your signature in there, so it makes it really branded as well. For messages that get returned to you, would you check your regular inbox for those messages, or do you see them in Pulse 360?
Right now, we're not receiving emails. It's just going
Okay.
out of the us into to the client. But what advisors sometimes do is if a client has emailed them about something specific they want to remember, they'll come into Pulse and add it under. I've just called it Forum Client, and then they'll just paste in that particular note right in
Oh,
here. Now it's there and you can bring it up. You can apply different tags so that you can remember what's important. Like you could do a next meeting on this. And so, hey, you're better prepared. You don't need to go and dig into the emails every time to say, what was it? Just take a moment, copy and paste it in here.
perfect. And how would your prospect process go with that? Same thing, sometimes you just have a first name and an email. You would just kind of start your prospect process there and
Yeah, so let me share the prospect process here. So I'll create a new meeting just for kicks here. So we start fresh. We have a different template for prospects. And so now this one will fill out with a prospect email. And if you know what they have been referred on for, like maybe retirement or, hey, these people really need help with education, let's say, we have a library system where you can go through and have these things pre-prepared. So like this one, I'll pick on prospect agenda. It's more education focused. And so I'll go ahead and add those items in. And now that adds in these 3 bullet points that you can personalize and say, you know what, client, so let's just say, Dana, I'd love to help you with education and I don't know, retirement, let's just say, right? All you need to do is fill out those things. Here in this case, I'll say, hey, send me your, and 2023 is probably ready now, so we'll just ask for 2023 tax returns. This creates the notes into your CRM, but also creates an email that you can now email out to the prospect. It's very personalized, right? Because you're starting to at the beginning, you can saying, hey, I'd love to help you with education and retirement and so on and so forth. The other thing that we do that you can set up, again, this is going back to delivering that next level client experience. If you're requesting a 2023 tax return, attach a task that goes back in your CRM. Why is that important? Because you want to be proactive. If you don't ask for it ahead of time again, because client's not going to remember this, like maybe create a task 2 days before the meeting, let them call them or email them again saying, hey, remember I need that. That's important because one, they're seeing that you're on top of everything and you're kind of asking them for it, but also During the meeting, it doesn't come up like, oh, shoot, we forgot to bring it. That just adds more work in the back end. I've done this enough times to know the work that comes post meeting, we compound because we're not better prepared ahead of time. And so these are all things we have built in to make your life easy to execute this, right? So it will take time to kind of get it dialed in the way you want, but these are all tools we've built to put you in a better, more readiness state for pre-meeting and post-meeting. Using our AI, you can create a summary and tasks back in the CRM and add those different tags and nuances that you can capture.
Really great. I love that.
Yeah.
All right. And I assume, when you're talking CRM, you're talking Redtail, Wealthbox.
Yeah, we connect today with Redtail, Wealthbox, as well as Salesforce. So we can create tasks in all three. For Redtail and Wealthbox, we can also kick off workflows into those CRMs from Pulse itself without you leaving Pulse.
Really great. I love that. And if someone's wondering, how to kind of learn these best practices, is there a link or a schedule button that they can find out these
Yeah,
best practices?
yeah. If you go to our website, pulse360.com, you can schedule a demo. Oops, let me close this out. You can schedule a demo right from the beginning, and we can jump on and kind of show you this and show you the precise FP connection as well. And then if you decide, hey, you want to try us out, you start a trial with us, and then we'll onboard you and understand what's important and kind of help you build out your process from there onwards.
Really great because, everyone has a secret sauce, and I feel like the most dangerous place that could be is inside someone's head. So hashing that out with a demo over the phone and making sure that it's written somewhere, it's repeatable. If you're out of the office for some reason, someone else can pick it up and still offer that high level of customer service is really important.
Yep. Yep.
and
So
and building those raving fans, right?
that's right. Yeah, that's ultimately the main goal, I think, for all the advisors, or should be at least, right? So,
Exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
and even in your CRM, there's really an underutilized field in there called source. So, putting in there that, whether it's coming from referral, coming from your radio ad, maybe you're meeting people at the airport, put where you're, trying to meet people and where you are meeting people in there. And then you could see where the bulk of your business is coming from and kind of put gasoline where there's already fire.
that's right. That's right. It's very good tip there.
Yes.
So,
All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Anand. Thank you so much for walking through that with us and discussing all of the features. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. It's pulse360.com, correct?
yes.
Awesome.
Thank
And
you,
then,
Nora.
yep, you're welcome. Thank you so much for your time today, everyone, and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. Bye bye.